Hello everyone, my name is Mike Broomhead. Those of you who know me know that I am a passionate supporter of our military, and I'm really happy to be with you today. We are celebrating our military heroes with the VMLC. This marks my 9th consecutive year as your MC for this event, and on behalf of the Veterans Medical Leadership Council, I'd like to welcome you to the 18th Annual Heroes Patriotic Luncheon. We may not be gathered in a single location this year, but the VMLC has brought us together virtually for a very important reason, and that is to honor and commemorate the invaluable contributions of our military, our veterans, active duty members, and the groups who support them. As you are aware of, there is still a great need to support our servicemen and women. So throughout the event, you will see a donate button at the upper right corner of your screen. I encourage you to support the VMLC as they work to fulfill their mission. During the program today, we will hear from our 2020 honorees, including World War II veteran Roger Engelbrecht, who has served in the U.S. Navy, Korean War veteran Frank Miller, who served in the United States Air Force, Vietnam veteran Bill Lamar, who served in the U.S. Army, and Cold War veteran Lynn Bennett, who served as a reservist in the U.S. Navy. Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran Edgar de Real, who served in the U.S. Navy. Operation Enduring Freedom Afghanistan veteran Scott Ford, who served in the U.S. Army. We will highlight each of our honorees later in the program and look forward to hearing from them. Our national anthem will be performed by April Manchester Miller, who has been a part of this patriotic luncheon for over a decade. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our honorary chairman. His name is Glenn Kasperzik, and our invocation by retired U.S. Air Force Colonel and Chaplain Fannalou Guggisberg. After that, we will have a performance by our Medal of Honor recipient, Sammy Davis, who will perform Shenandoah on his harmonica.
Present. Huh.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Holy, eternal God, our Lord, this year has challenged us in ways we could not have conceived, but you are the same, yesterday, today, and forever, our deliverer, protector, provider. In peril and in peace, we call out to you and you hear. You have preserved America from infancy to the present, and you will see us through this current crisis. We thank and praise you for all your many blessings. Thank you in particular for the military men and women who served our nation in wartime and peace, defending our Constitution and preserving our cherished ideals. May we never forget the sacrifice of the fallen or forfeit the freedoms that came at such cost. A debt is owed our battle-weary and wounded veterans as well, who suffer all manner of service-connected losses and disorders. O Lord, surround all our military, the well and the wounded, with your nurturing care, safety, and encouragement. We pray also your continued watch care over our President. Thank you for the Veterans Medical Leadership Council and their many supporters for their role in addressing and meeting veterans' issues and needs. In easing such burdens, VMLC functions as an instrument of your grace and care. Bless all engaged in this extensive network of support and healing. Heal our national soul, O God. Forgive us where we fail to walk rightly before you as a people and as individuals. Bless us as only you can bless our beloved America. This we pray. Amen.
Medal of Honor recipient Sammy L. Davis, and I would like to play Shenandoah for you.
A big thank you to Mr. Davis, and what a reminder of our POWs and MIAs and everybody else that kicked us off. At this time, I'd like to introduce the VMLC president, also U.S. Army retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Eisiminger, to share the VMLC's mission.
Welcome to the Veterans Medical Leadership Council's 18th annual Heroes Patriotic Luncheon. This year, with the global pandemic, we were faced with uncertainty about whether we'd even have this event. And our theme this year is uncertainty, and how veterans have a very unique way of dealing with uncertainty and making the best out of the situation. We dealt with our uncertainty by deciding to tread into uncharted waters and to hold this event virtually. Veterans have faced uncertainty from the day they stepped off the bus at Camp Lejeune to the day they transitioned out of the military and back into the civilian world. And even old retired guys like me had to do that at one time. Our keynote speaker today certainly faced uncertainty throughout his naval career, from the day he showed up as a new midshipman at the Naval Academy to flight training, and more especially in his 6 years as a POW in Vietnam. And he's going to share with us how he dealt with that uncertainty. The Veterans Medical Leadership Council helps veterans that find themselves in times of uncertainty or need. That may be repairing a broken vehicle so they can get to VA appointments. It may be help with housing or help with utilities. And over the years, the VMLC has given over $3 million to help these veterans through their uncertainties. More recently, in this past year, with the global pandemic, we've helped veterans in the Navajo and the Hopi nations with provision of personal protective equipment, or PPE, and water storage. And as you know, those nations were most drastically hit by COVID. We've also recently partnered with the Boulder Crest Foundation that helps veterans from this generation get through their post-traumatic stress. And so now we still have a lot of uncertainty. When is the global pandemic going to be over? When and if are the stimulus checks going to continue? So we're facing uncertainty, and we know that the demand's going to go up. So if you can find it in your heart to donate, please hit that donate button to help these veterans through their uncertainty. In a shift from our theme of uncertainty, I'm going to shift to certainty. I'm certain that Sam Young doesn't know this is coming. Sam Young was my predecessor as the president of the Veterans Medical Leadership Council. In fact, this is my first year. I've got very big footsteps to fill. He spent the last 10 years making an indelible mark on veterans of Maricopa County, many of which you're going to hear from today. And as a token of our appreciation, and as what I'm certain is a surprise, we're going to present this trophy as a token of our appreciation to Sam Young, Air Force veteran. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Tom. And Sam truly is the heartbeat of this organization and truly has a heart for veterans, and what a fine tribute to Sam. Each year, the VMLC selects individuals from the community who have proudly served our country in conflicts dating back to World War II. We are so proud to introduce this year's honorees.
Well, that was when I was in boot camp, and that was when I was younger, and that's when I'd just gotten in the Navy, and I was going to boot camp, which was up in Chicago, or north of Chicago. That was taken in on Kwajalein Atoll, and although I wasn't a pilot, I did ride sometimes to check the gear with the pilots. So that's where that was taken. We just gotten in from off the ship from the Pacific, and they gave us liberty, and so we got our dress blues on and started doing that. Hello, I'm Roger E. Engelbrecht. I was in the Navy in World War II. I spent a lot of time in the States going to school, learning to be an aviation electronic tech. I'm 96. We were going to invade Japan, and I was on they call it a small aircraft carrier. It wasn't one of the big ones. They were escort carriers, they called them. And I was on that, and we were going to invade Japan. Well, then they dropped the bombs, and they didn't need me anymore. So then they just transferred me off that ship to this island there, which is Kwajalein Island. 400,000 people gave their lives so that we could live like we are today. They were mostly young men and women that were American people, you know. Over 400,000. That was how many got killed in World War II. Well, I love the country. I surely do. And if I was young enough, I would need it in the Army or Navy, I'd probably go in again. But I love this country. Thanks to the audience for giving me this honor. Thank you again.
Hey, my name is Joel Frank Miller, and I was in the U.S. Air Force and the Israeli Air Force. I was a damn good pilot, really good. And that was my story. I ended up flying for 35 years for a private company and then for 11 different airlines. I enjoyed my time in the military, both militaries, very much. The only difference was in Israel, I flew, and in the States, I was a radio operator. So that's me at my base in the Philippines, right there. We were right by a jungle, and we used to go in there, and we found some old Japanese air bases and airplane parts. So it was interesting as can be. I'm a veteran and I'm proud of it. I want to thank you guys for picking me very much, and I wish you all luck also. Good job.
Hello, my name is Bill Ward. I served in the United States Army at the rank of Sergeant E5. I served overseas in Vietnam from 1967 to 1968. I served during the 68 Tet Offensive, which was one of the most difficult times in my life. It was difficult because I lost two of my best friends that I played high school football with in a small town here in Arizona, McNair, Arizona. I had just received a Christmas card from Ernie, And I was stationed in 3 Corps down in the Delta. He was just above me. And the Christmas card came, and in January, the end of January, Tet started, and he got killed the second day of Tet. Johnny Cedillo was the other young man that was up in I Corps with the U.S. Marines, had 30 days to go before he got killed. We're brotherhood. Vietnam veterans are brotherhood. I landed at Benoit, in South Vietnam, and it's like, you're seeing monkeys in the trees out there, things like this, it's like, wow, we're in the jungle someplace. So the uncertainty just runs rampant into many different extremes, Everybody deals with it differently. There's a lot of uncertainty. You don't even know that you're coming back. And you're going into a situation that's foreign to you that you've never experienced. So there's a great deal of uncertainty. It's the perspective you have on life. You have a lot of control. You have more control than you realize. Nobody owes you anything. You have to be able to be willing to want to work at it. I mean, the country was founded on hard work. World War II veterans come back and they worked. So what's wrong with me coming back and working and not looking for somebody to hand me something? I think there are lessons learned from Vietnam, but there's also lessons learned from life, in general, because Vietnam is one part of it, and you got to have a lesson, a foundation before you go into that, and it's like family at home, that's the foundation. That's where you're teaching, that's where you prepare people to go out into the world. And if that's not in sync or it's not done right, what do? Honor, I don't look for honor. If you work hard and do the right things, it comes to you. And I feel real good about my service in Vietnam. If I had to do it again, I'd do it again tomorrow. I have no questions about serving. But as to go out and look for honor, I just choose to do the work. And the honor will come if you do the work.
Hi, my name is Lynn Bennett. I am retired from the United States Navy. I served 22 years. I retired in 2016 as a lieutenant commander. And my job was a public affairs officer. My uncle was in the Navy and served 20 years, and my dad was in the Navy and served 4 years. So for me to be in the Navy just brings the pride of history. I was really shocked too when I was told that I was nominated, and it's kind of, I feel like, I don't know if I deserve it, but I know I do the best that I can to help veterans every day, and even if it's not a big crowd or a big group, if I can just help one and know that I'm here, I'm a battle sister, I'll be here for you. And that's what being a veteran is about, is being there after. I think, I think about my favorite quote from Ronald Reagan, and I'm going to read it. The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets people to do the greatest things. And I don't ever feel like, I don't need to do anything great, but I want to, I'm just here, and I'm not doing great things, I'm just here helping. Know that we're going to be here, and no matter who's president, no matter what's going on in the world, we're going to get up tomorrow and we're going to go to work, and we're going to be with our families. And you have to just push yourself, so even if you're not a veteran, people need that push, and you need to just know that everything's going to be okay. We've survived thousands of years. And that's what I tell my son, after the election, we're going to get up tomorrow, you're going to go to school, I'm going to go to work, everything will be the same. It's how you perceive life, and life is good.
Hello, my name is Dr. Esper Del Real. I served in the United States Navy, but I was privileged enough to serve with the Marine Corps Infantry in Fallujah, Iraq. I was deployed on a ship going to the Middle East, and I also was honored enough to serve Greenside with the Marines. And when we went, there is this bond and connection we had because of the situation at hand. We had to have each other's backs, and we did lose several individuals, but it was that unity that got us back home in the right frame of mind and just made peace with everything. I got into medicine because I want to help people. I was privileged enough to help a fellow veteran with his treatments for 100 days. That was the time he needed to recover after his chemo radiation for bone cancer. I was able to obviously help him pick up once again, because the chemo was very devastating for him, to help him, from basics to going to the restroom, getting cleaned up, cooking for him, taking him to his appointments at Mayo Clinic in the Phoenix area. And, that gave us time to bond together, push each other to our limits, because it pushed me a lot. I had to be with him in a place where it was just him and I because of his immune compromised state. Like with anything in life, I think, having been in the military, all the uncertainty that came with being deployed, my career as a physician, how it's taken roller coasters, it was tough. Anything that, requires uncertainty, as long as we run towards it and try to learn from it and just give it our full course. And, remember, you always have a band of brothers to help you out, or family, going towards what, those fears, because a lot of people feel some sort of fear that comes with uncertainty, it breaks us out of the habit. And with this whole COVID and life in general, life will throw you some curveballs, and so has COVID, and it's made our lives change. Sometimes it has caused us a lot of stress and anxiety, which is part of life. But I think if we just approach it with a positive mindset and just give it our all and count on others to help you when you need help and help others along the way, for me, is to work together, go towards those uncertainties, and don't be afraid, and just keep on moving forward.
Hi, I'm Scott Ford, retired Master Sergeant from the United States Army. I joined the Army in 1993, went to airborne school out of basic training to the 82nd Airborne Division, and then later went to become a Green Beret. And we have a selection process, and then roughly a year and a half school until you can earn your Green Beret. And I served in that capacity for 18 of my 21 years in the military in 3rd Special Forces Group, deploying around the world. Altogether, I deployed to 49 different countries. And I had a total of 12 combat rotations between different theaters throughout the world, everything from Bosnia all the way through Afghanistan, Iraq, and several other countries in between. One particular mission that I really can't talk about too much, but generally we were doing a high value target in Iraq. It was the numbers just weren't perfect when you plan and want to do things, but it was a mission where we needed to rescue hostages, and the reality was we knew we were going to be putting something on the line that day, and it was one of those situations where we looked at each other, and I just said, hey, no matter what happens, take care of my family, and it was unspoken the other way back, and so yeah, there's 3 or 4 of those throughout my career. Even the day that I ended up getting severely wounded. Going into it, we knew that there were some uncertainties, just some assumptions that we made that we would have liked to have had as facts. And at the end of the day, when we got in there, there was definitely a moment where, you look at each other with that. It's a different, you look eye to eye and understand that the levity of the situation is greater than the typical mission. When I've been faced with uncertainty, I've relied on my decision-making process or, creating the outcome that I want it to become. I think the great thing that the military does, it helps you understand how to take emotion out of your decisions and utilize the facts, the assumptions, and make the best decision you can with that information. The highest award I received during my service was the Silver Star for my actions during Shock Valley with ODA 3336. 10 of us received Silver Stars that day. 2 of those guys were actually upgraded to Medals of Honor in the last 2 years. As far as my personal awards too, I've also received 3 Bronze Stars, a Purple Heart, and several other valorous awards throughout my military career. For me, the pride in being a veteran is not just, I think it's easy to say that I volunteered and I served my country, but also I think one of the things, I think we're also people in this country that that are kind of the fabric of the country, or really we help hopefully instill and show the values of what America is about across the world.
What a great history and lineage of our United States military represented by our honorees. At this time, I'd like to introduce Navy Captain retired and a brave man who spent over 6 years as a prisoner of war, Captain Charles Plumb.
Tower, X-ray, flight at 3, we're 15 to the northeast for landing. Now, 1 Charlie, 7 November, go. Small auto, 20 knots forward. Hot rifle, max in the mark, elevation 30. 7 November, golf, roger, check your front gun side, I'll check my tank side, 7 November, golf out.
The first prison cell I was in Vietnam was 8 feet long and 8 feet wide. I could pace 3 steps in one direction before I ran into a wall, and then turn around and pace 3 steps the other way. You learn a lot in a prison cell. The first thing you learn is pain. You learn a lot about pain. Physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain. Second thing, you might not suspect this. Second thing you learn in a prison cell is, well, the seconds eventually wear into minutes, and the minutes eventually wear into hours, hours to days, days into months, and you acclimate. You really do. You learn how to breathe deeply and think about things far away, sunny beaches, warm breezes, thoughts of home in the future. You know what happens? You get used to this. In fact, you get so comfortable in your 8-foot cell, the last place you want to go is outside the cell because it's dark and lonely out here. At least you know the devil in the light. Here's what happens. You get this restriction built up. And it's not the 8 feet between the walls. It's the 8 inches between your ears. You're in a mental box. Ever been in one of those mental boxes? With the uncertainty we feel as veterans, we all get there. And in civilian life, you know, you just can't see the forest for the trees sometimes. How do you handle that? Because we all get there. In fact, I'm convinced that the mental boxes of our lives can be more restrictive than those walls of stone and steel that I was behind. What a pleasure it is for me to be with you and participate in this Heroes Patriotic Luncheon. And just to be on the same program as my fellow Vietnam veteran, Bill Lamar, my Navy shipmates, Roger Engelbrecht, Lynn Bennett, Esgar Del Real, Frank Miller, who led the way in Korea. And of course, I knew Tom Browning very well. We were in the same prison cell in Vietnam. And I can tell you there's no better man than Brigadier General Tom Browning. These are all my heroes. But you don't have to carry a rifle or fly a jet airplane to be a hero. I so respect the volunteers and donors of VMLC. Each of you is serving your country by serving those who have served our country. I'd like to call you all a bunch of parachute packers. Let me explain that. I sat down in a restaurant in Kansas City where I used to live. About 2 tables over, a guy kept looking at me, and I caught his eye, but I didn't recognize this gent. This fellow stood up. He walked over to my table. He pointed at me and he said, "You're Captain Plumb." I looked up and I said, "Yes, sir. I'm Captain Plumb." "You're that guy. You flew jet fighters in Vietnam. You're a fighter pilot. Part of that Top Gun outfit off the aircraft carrier Kitty Hawk. You were shot down. You parachuted into enemy hands. And you spent nearly 6 years as a prisoner of war." Somewhat dumbfounded, I looked up at this guy and I said, "How in the world did you know all that?" He finally broke into a smile and he said, "Because I packed your parachute." Tell you this, for this guy that runs around the country making speeches, I was speechless. The best I could do was stagger to my feet, reach out a very grateful hand of thanks. He came up with just the proper words. The guy grabbed my hand, he punched my arm, and he said, "I guess it worked." I said, "Indeed it did, my friend. And I must tell you, I've said a lot of prayers of thanks for your nimble fingers, but I had no idea I'd ever have the opportunity of expressing my gratitude in person." He said, "Were all the panels there?" I responded, "I must be honest with you, they weren't. Of the 18 panels that are supposed to be in that parachute, I had only 15 good ones. 3 of the panels were torn. But it wasn't your fault, it was mine. I ejected from that F-4 Phantom jet at 600 knots, close to the ground. I was well outside the envelope of that parachute. You did your job, I didn't do mine." I said, "But let me ask you a question. Do you keep track of all the parachutes you pack? Do you know of all the lives you've saved?" I said, "No." Now, this is the most important part of the conversation that night. I think he deals directly with the volunteers of the VMLC. I think he deals directly with veterans and the job that we have to do in these uncertain times. Here's what he said. He said, "No, I don't keep track of all the parachutes I pack. It's enough gratification for me just to know that I've served." He was a sailor well below the waterline of this aircraft carrier. He stands at a long wooden table and weaves the shrouds and folds the silk panels of these parachutes. Puts them together one after another, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, while the jet jockey, while the Top Gun zooms around the sky at the speed of sound. Couldn't have cared less about the guy down there in the hole. Until one day my parachute came along. And he packed mine up for me. Hey gang, isn't that what we're doing here? Packing parachutes. Isn't that the real essence of life? Serving without asking anything in return. That's what we did as veterans, and now that's what we do as civilians. So we had a lot of parachute packers in that prison camp, a lot of true leaders. Of course, they were guys like Jim Stockdale and Tom Browning, and my old flight instructor, John McCain. And these are the guys that turned this whole thing around for us. The leadership said, "Hey, we're not on the defensive. We are on the offensive. And we will pursue this war to our last dying breath. So pull up your big boy pants," they'd say. "We got a war to fight." And I would suggest to you that it's the same with us. As veterans, we still have a war to fight. Oh yes, we have pledged to defend the Constitution of the United States on all enemies, foreign and domestic, and of course we're still doing that. But the war I think that we have to fight in this time of pandemic, in this time of lockdown, this time of uncertainty, is to serve each other as we have been served. Well, one of the best parachute packers in a prison camp, one of the best leaders of all, turned out to be the lowest ranking guy in the camp, a Navy sailor, an enlisted guy. Now, of course, you see, we were all officers because we were pilots. It was an air war over North Vietnam, and pilots were being shot down and put in the prison camps. And so we had a whole prison camp full of pilots. And who shows up? A Navy sailor, an enlisted guy. How did a sailor get into a prison camp in an air war over North Vietnam? Well, he fell off his ship. He used to tell us, I wasn't captured like you pilots. I was rescued. And indeed he was. Seaman Douglas Hegdall from Clark, South Dakota, on the fantail of the cruiser Canberra, in the middle of the night, he falls off the ship. Could he take a joke? We would tap on our walls and tug on our wires in a secret code that we had in the prison camp. We'd pass around a little questionnaire. Who's the oldest in the camp? Who's got the most kids back home? Who's been here the longest? One time we had what we called the high-fast, low-slow contest to try to determine what fighter pilot had jumped out of his jet going highest and fastest, who jumped out going lowest and slowest. Well, high-fast contest was won by some Air Force jock who punched out of his F-105 at 52,000 feet, 1,000 miles an hour. And the low-slow contest was won by the Navy sailor, 12 feet at 15 knots. Oh, but here's the interesting part and why I tell you his story. Douglas Hegdall didn't seem to suffer from this 8-inch box like the more mature of us college graduate fighter pilots did. I don't know why. Sometimes, I think he just wasn't old enough to understand that we had a big problem. But he didn't see this as a problem. He saw it as an opportunity. So what did he do? He started memorizing names. He memorized the names of everyone in that prison camp, 254 of us in that camp. Then he put our names into songs. He would sing these songs over and over and over with our names in the songs. Still wasn't nearly finished. He went back through his list. He memorized our hometowns all across the country, then our next of kin. And finally, I'm not kidding you, Doug Hegdall memorized the telephone numbers of each of the relatives of each of the 254 prisoners of war in that camp. Well, that took about 2 years, working several hours a day on his lists. About that time, things were improving. And thanks largely to our wives back here who were petitioning our government and other governments to put pressure on the North Vietnamese to stop torturing their husbands. And it worked. And we got a little better food. The torture stopped for the most part. And they decided to send a couple of guys home early before the end of the war. First guy they went to was John McCain. His father was CINCPAC, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific. John's dad was in charge of the Vietnam War while John and I were prisoners. Well, they said, McCain, we're sending you home early. John said, in your dreams, you take your idea and shove it. He got in a lot of trouble for refusing to go home early. So they're still looking for someone, and somebody else is going to get hurt. So our senior man sent the message to the sailor. Son, I want you to volunteer to go home first. The sailor sent back, sir, with all due respect, I'd rather stay here with the team. I want to march to freedom with you guys. I want to be part of the solution. Our senior man said, that's not an option. Here's a direct order. Shove off. The sailor said, aye, aye, sir. Home he came. Now write the script on the sailor. What would you expect of this guy now? 2 years in prison by accident. He's been starved, humiliated, lonely, tortured, but things are looking up. He suddenly has a brand new suit of clothes on, 2 years back pay in his pocket, and he's free on the streets of San Diego. What can you expect? Oh, but he was a parachute packer. What do you suppose he did? Sure, he started to travel west coast to east, north to south. He went through each one of the hometowns he'd memorized. He dialed each one of those telephone numbers he'd memorized. He spoke to each one of the wives he memorized, told her that her husband was alive. Let me ask you this question. Do you know any of those folks? Those parachute packers? I got to believe this audience is full of them. That's what you've got. You got in Tom and Carrie and Sam and all the other people that lead this organization. And you got them at home. The donors are participants. And of course, the veterans as well. The people that we serve. All parachute packers. Well, have you thanked them lately? Have you thanked the parachute packers? See, because I think that's what we have to do. That's our mission. Because I'm convinced if you in fact can serve your country by serving those who have served their country, then you're a great hero in my mind. Great being with you. Thank you very much.
Captain Plumb, first of all, thank you for the wonderful presentation, and thank you for your heartfelt words. It really was something special.
Thank you very much, Mike. Proud to be with you.
You've been able to share your story with thousands of people. How is being able to share your story impacted you?
Oh, very good question. And as a matter of fact, you find a lot of World War II, especially in Korean veterans, who are a little unable or unwilling to share their story. Well, every time I speak, and I've done it over 5,000 times since I was repatriated, every time I speak, I tell the audience, hey, I'm talking to you, happy to talk to you, but oh, by the way, I'm talking to myself. This is my therapy, just going back and reliving my experience and picking out the positive parts and the ways to live that makes me a better person by listening to myself. So, and it's also, to me, it's a mission. It's a mission because people really pick up on things that I say and what I do. And I don't really feel like I have a lot of wisdom. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I have an experience that very few people have had. And if I can use that experience to help to give hope to people that are going through challenging times, then it's worth my while.
The only thing that would have made this experience better is if I could be shaking your hand right now when I thank you. But thank you from the VMLC and for everybody that's watching this message and this interview with you. You are truly an inspiration. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I'm humbled and I'm flattered and I'm honored to be with you on part of this program. And to all the veterans, I salute you, my friends.
My name is Sarah Cassette, and I'm the Vice President of Patient Care Services and Chief Nursing Officer here at Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Goodyear.
And I'm Molly Stockley, Vice President of Business Development. We at Cancer Treatment Centers of America are proud to accept the Brigadier General Tom Browning Community Hero Award at this year's Veterans Medical Leadership Council Luncheon. This Community Hero Award means so much to CTCA and to myself, specifically due to Brigadier General Browning's personal history and character. From his career as a U.S. Air Force pilot to his incarceration as a prisoner of war, to commander at our own Luke Air Force Base and all his distinguished awards and successes, until his untimely passing due to cancer. This man is truly a hero to be honored.
At CTCA, all our patients and caregivers are true heroes. We are a national oncology network of hospitals and outpatient centers covering the United States. We believe in a personalized approach to healthcare. It's what we call the mother standard of care. As stakeholders, we treat each patient as our own mother, father, sister, brother, and friend. With our passion combined with VMLC's mission of enhancing the quality of veterans' healthcare and services in Maricopa County, we continue to look forward to many successful years as a supporter and contributor.
We are proud to employ veterans representing all branches of the armed forces, from frontline stakeholders including drivers, technicians, nurses, and physicians, to our executive leadership, which includes our own Sarah Cassette, who is Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Air Force, currently serving as Chief Nurse at the 944th Medical Squadron at Luke Air Force Base. We are exceptionally honored to support and treat active duty military and veterans when they are unfortunately diagnosed with cancer. We wholeheartedly believe it is our duty to treat our heroes who have served our country and fought for our freedom. Personally, I've been a supporter of VMLC for many years and have had the pleasure of raising funds to enhance veterans services. Serving in our military has been a family affair. I'm the proud granddaughter of grandparents who both served in the U.S. Army during World War II and the Korean War. I am also the proud daughter of a former chief warrant officer who served in the U.S. Army as a helicopter pilot during the Vietnam War.
We sincerely thank VMLC for this honor and proudly accept this award on behalf of all of our Cancer Treatment Centers of America stakeholders. Thank you so much.
I want to mention that today's celebration is not a fundraiser. It's just a chance for us to recognize and thank the veterans and our military members for their service. As many of you personally know, those who have served and continue to serve write a check, and it's made payable to the United States of America for an amount that's up to and sometimes including their lives to defend our freedom. So I'd like to say on a personal note that if you're in a position to be able to give, 2020 has been a very difficult year for all of us. But for some of these veterans, they're going through a very hard time. If you're in a position to give, I consider giving a privilege. If you can and you like to partner with the VMLC, you can do that right now. There is a donate button for some of you that are watching this live, but 2020's got challenges. If you don't see the donate button, you can just go to the website and make a donation and partner with the VMLC. I've been associated with them for almost a decade. There is no group of people that is more dedicating their lives to making sure that these men and women have their needs fulfilled. And if you'd like to partner, that'd be great. And now playing us out, a very talented group of kids from the Valley Youth Theater singing God Bless America.